Chair recognizes Ms. Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ranking Member Meeks. Thank you to all of our witnesses today. It feels very inadequate to say, but thank you for your service to our country. And that includes so many in our audience, I know, and I don't know. This is painful, powerful testimony that is important for us to hear. So I'm glad you're here. I thank you for being willing to go through this repeated pain. We owe a tremendous debt to all of you. We owe a tremendous debt to the more than 800,000 servicemen and women who served our country over the course of 20 years. More than 2,400 lost their lives, more than 20,000 wounded, and I'm not even beginning to touch those who will never be the same in spirit and following post-traumatic stress. We've lost so many, as you've cited, to death by suicide. I come to this hearing awash with awe in all of you, sadness with the reality of this war and other wars, of course. But I also come to it with great humility, knowing that I can't get near what you do, what you've done, what you've sacrificed. I can't get near it. But I do think this is important to bring out the facts, the truth of the end of this war. As some have cited, it is not over. So I'll start with Sergeant Vargas-Andrews. Thank you for your service, your sacrifice. It's inadequate to say I'm sorry. But man, oh man, we are proud of you. I wanted to follow up on two of the questions you wrote in your testimony that I had read, and then you also mentioned it again. You said, ask me about one little girl that I reunited with her family. Would you tell us that story?
I would. Thank you, ma'am. You know, I think what I can say is for a lot of people out there, the actions that they had, specifically at Abbey Gate and around the airport, there were a lot of moments to them that were worth the mental strain to the service members. For myself, that first day at Abbey Gate, after we were working to push back the crowds, I was on the ground, and a little girl had squeezed her way through the crowd of about 7 or 8 years old, holding a 4-month-old, I would estimate, 4 or 5-month-old baby in her arms, and holding the hand of who I assumed to be her little brother, who was about 4 or 5 years old. And they were all dirty and bruised, I mean, tear-streaked faces. And kind of in this chaos, it was just like, I had tunnel vision and saw her, and I was like, I need to help them. It was just a very odd sight to see. And I picked up the baby and the little boy, and she followed me, like motioned for her to follow me. And to get to a safe area away from the crowd, I noticed that the baby's face was blue and purple. And so I went to the nearest person that resembled a medic and started asking if they had a small breathing bag, a BVM, to conduct CPR, because I didn't know if the baby had already passed, but assumed it wasn't breathing, and didn't want to, injure the baby by trying to perform CPR on it myself. And the individual, I don't know who it was. I sat there and watched them help resuscitate this baby, and face flushed pink, started crying, and then the little girl started asking for her dad, just crying and tugging on my uniform. I took her back to the gate and could tell that she was asking for her father, and climbed up on the SUVs overlooking the razor wire and held her up, and was just trying to ask her, do you see your dad, like Abba, like trying to, make her understand what I was saying. And she understood, and we sat up there for a minute or two, and in this crowd of hundreds of people below us, she just pointed in the direction, maybe 30, 40 people back, and there's just all these hundreds of people holding up papers, documents, whatnot, and there's this one individual just holding a bunch of family's luggage with his hands on his head, just crying and looking at her. And I was like, that is her dad. And I let the troops down right there at the opening of the gate know to help get this guy through, pulled him through. And the little girl hopped off the SUV and ran to him and hugged him, and he hugged her. Both cried, took and reunited them with the other 2 children. And he had paperwork for all of those families, showing their pictures and whatnot. And so for me, that was a moment that my personal injury was worth it. And, you know, I know those 3 little kids will have a life of freedom and opportunity now because of that. Thank you.
You know, there's an expression in the Jewish tradition that I always lean on, even though I'm a person of Catholic faith, and it is, to have saved a single life is to have saved the whole universe. So many of you have done that. You're in the process of it. Help us make sure we live up to our obligation to the remaining people whom we must save, rescue, get on with their lives, as we also try to help the women and girls. Mr. Chairman, I yield back, and I thank you.